Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Squares Roundtable, episode number 71. I'm Mike. Glad that you're here. We're a little short-staffed this week. Ivan is having his procedure done today, so we wish him well and a speedy recovery. We'll get him back here next week. And Jeff is doing his public speaking thing tonight, so he's sent the meme through the internet about Jobu and something about chicken bones or something like that. They're referencing Major League or something like that. But so he's gone today. So I have with us our star attraction, not so much to say like he's like behind in the blue corner, from famously known as our news source for many of our crazy stories for our sister show, News of the Squared. With me today is Scott.
Howdy.
Greetings. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Right.
It's been a few weeks.
Yes, we're glad to have you back.
Yes.
Even if we are just like you said, we're on Skeleton Crew, and last weekend I talked to a couple people, but everyone's busy on a Monday night except me and you. So that's it. We're done. So we're recording on a Monday night, as we always do, as we usually do. Most weeks.
Most weeks, yeah.
But I get a hold of a couple of my friends, and they're like, yeah, no, they have obligations. Like extra jobs and families and things and lives, so we're like, fine, I'll do my job. Yeah,
so does that make us the squares of the lifeless?
We're the squariest of the squared.
Ooh.
So how was your week? How have you been these last few episodes you've been doing?
I've been doing pretty good. To correct you on one thing, you said a few weeks ago, send the bat signal over Brooklyn so I see it. In actuality, I live in a section called Queens,
okay.
In a borough called Queens, and I just work in Brooklyn a few times here and there. And that's kind of what I've been doing, had to change shower body in a shower in one of the apartments, and then got word that water was leaking downstairs, and I'm like, oh no. So go running over and take out the ceilings, find where it's leaking and things, because my repair was fine, just to find out that the tenant took the plastic liner out of his shower curtain, so it was just the cloth and taking showers.
Right. Yeah. Well, at least it was no fault of yours.
Yeah, definitely.
It was just a result of stupid people.
Exactly. And, there have been a couple other pairs. We had 2 sink faucets go out, so I had to change those 2 things. Nothing major. And Wednesday, by the time this airs, I'll have gone to Brooklyn and started the ceiling repair, putting the ceiling back together. So,
now, is that drop ceiling or just drywall?
Drywall.
Okay.
Drywall. So, but fortunately, I took it out where I had patched before. So, the hole's already squared. I already have all the bracing up. I just have to cut a new piece and then do the mud work and paint it, and it's done. So,
now, I don't do a whole lot of plumbing stuff. I work at a hardware store, and I know a lot about general home repair, and I've done some stuff around the house, obviously, myself. But I've not done a lot of plumbing. I know it's like even more simpler than just pipes, and I know it flows down, and red is blue, red is hot, green, blue is cold.
Cold, right? Right. Yeah, I don't do anything. Okay, what I do around the apartments is I don't do anything where you require licenses. I'll change a faucet, or like the bathtubs there, the outer one, or the 4-foot one, the ones with the 4 lion's feet. So I'm not going into any walls. So I could change a faucet. I could do, change a shower body or a diverter, because it's outside the wall. Anything inside the wall, we get licensed people to do it. That way, if something goes wrong, it's not on my head.
Right.
And also, buildings department doesn't like it if you do that stuff. So, and these places in New York City, they get inspected quite often. And same thing with electrical. I'll change a light fixture. I'll change a plug. I'll change a switch. But as far as like running new circuits and things, we leave that to the licensed. I can do it, but why get in trouble?
Leave it to the professionals. Make sure it's done right.
That
Pay
way,
the premium and get it done so you're not liable.
Well, yeah, exactly. I can't afford to replace these buildings or the people's stuff, Plus, if I did something that required licensing, right, and something went wrong, then I'm going to jail. We had that big case of the unlicensed plumbers and the landlords rigging the gas lines down in Manhattan, which blew up a building and took out 2 others and killed 2 people. They're going to jail for murder, all of them. And I'm not ready to handle that. I don't think I'd like to meet Bubba anytime.
Absolutely. I hear you.
So that's, as far as, fun social stuff, not too much. Hanging out with the wife and tending to the guinea pig who's been feeling a little bit under the weather. He's 5 years old, so it's getting a little bit touchier to do that. But, so not a whole lot. I understand, though, that you have been doing quite a bit lately besides the hardware store.
Well, this week, I had to swap hours with a guy, so I usually work Saturday and then I'm off on Sunday. But last weekend, I was off on Saturday and worked Sunday because one of my coworkers' birthday was Sunday. So I'm like, all right, I'll work on Sunday. But my point being is that it threw my schedule off a bit, but I got some yard work done on Saturday before the rain. And then Saturday night, instead of Sunday night, was our game night, and that was fun. We played Space Hulk, an old game I had from the late 80s, early 90s, when when Games Workshop, they had their core system, Warhammer 40,000, or Warhammer 40K if you want to call it. They've branched out into other games. There was a time in the late 80s, they had a game called Dark Future, which was pretty much Mad Max. When that was in its when that was in its height of its popularity, thanks to Mel Gibson. And then there was another game called Space Hulk, which is like pretty much the movie Aliens, the sequel that Cameron did after 79's Alien. And
it's funny, I never heard of any of these games.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's from a British gaming company, and they didn't get a whole lot of popularity here in the States. Because it's not like Dungeons and Dragons, because that TSR owned the roost in that regard. And this was, like I said, this was late 80s, early 90s, so this was all still kind of underground. It hasn't effervesced to the surface of pop culture as it is today, where like you've got celebrities playing D&D on YouTube. It's not like that anymore. Me and Jeff, we talked about that a lot, how it's just back in the day we had to do this behind closed doors, and because we were super nerds back then, and that wasn't cool, and if we did it in public, we'd get our butts kicked.
Oh yeah, sure. I've only played D&D once. I wanted to learn D&D and learn what it was all about and everything, and I knew somebody who took me to a game, and the Dungeon Master was not the most helpful for somebody who was playing it the first time.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so it stayed too complicated for me to comprehend at that point. And I just never went back, but I've always had an interest in the game.
Well, okay, though, that's good. Well, hopefully you'll try again, and you'll have a DM that'll help you a little bit better, and you'll have more supportive teammates, and you can just go with the flow and make the die rolls when needed, and just follow the pack to start out.
You mean Elmo Fuddpucker Farnsworthy III can live?
Yes, maybe, possibly.
I still remember the name. But no, unfortunately, I don't know anybody who's into gaming. Like I said, I'm around the house with the wife most of the time. So, I am. By the way, but not to change it, but real quick. On Friday, I'm going to my favorite place in the world, and that's a property in Massachusetts, and it'll be there till Tuesday. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Get away from the big city.
Oh, yeah.
I had a good weekend. Saw Joker on Friday. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. And got some of the news from New York Comic Con this weekend. Jeff shared me the video on my timeline about the Picard trailer. And that looks great. That's coming in January, I think. And the teaser for Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, that looks nice too. Season 2 really is hitting its stride with Discovery. Season 1, it was kind of meh for me, but Season 2 was like, I was starting getting into it. And we liked Captain Pike, but I don't think we're gonna see him in season 3 due to the circumstances of where the Starship Discovery is in beginning of season 3. But we'll see. But let's see.
I have some fun with those prequels because I'm familiar enough with like the original version of Star Trek. I met Gene Roddenberry once, sat next to him. Yeah, Hobart College. He was doing a lecture, and I was like 11 years old at the time, and I decided to sit down next to the projector. And he gave his lecture, and it was cool and everything. And then he sat down next to me to run the projector to show the blooper reel.
What year was this?
That would have been 73 or 74.
Oh, this is where like you had like Star Trek conventions in like libraries or something like that. It was really underground, man. Before Star Wars hit and everything exploded in the sci-fi geek culture world.
Exactly, and he was just touring the colleges, giving lectures on Star Trek.
Oh man, to be there, man!
And he was such a cool dude to me. I mean, I remember I walked away and I was smiling my ass off, not only because I was familiar with Star Trek, but I met the creator and he was cool with me. And you know, for a kid who always got bullied and everything else, it was a nice change. It was really cool.
Yeah. And reading about his life and being a World War II pilot and having survived that plane crash in 1947 and then coming into his own and working, I think it was, he working for like a police force or something at the time when he got out, and then he started doing his writing on the side.
Right.
But he had just led an interesting life, and although later on, the historians might say whatever they want about him, but I mean, he had a vision for a show and a television show, and it made it a wonderful impact. And to say you met the dude, man, I am so jealous.
It was one of those times in my life that I'll never forget. And you know, to me, I wasn't even starstruck. It was like, oh, hi, how you doing? You know, because I didn't realize how big of a deal it was at that age.
Right, you had no grasp of it.
But yeah, all I knew was I liked Star Trek, and the guy who wrote it is talking. Yeah. Then sitting next to me, then turning on the projector.
Dude, wow.
Then watching his wife get felt up by William Shatner.
Nurse Chapel, man.
Who was on every series, doing the computer, and up to Next Gen.
Yep, she was Loxana Troy.
Exactly.
And then I think in Voyager also, did
she do a guest in Voyager?
She was the ship's computer in Voyager, but no, Loxana Troy was not on Voyager because the Voyager was halfway across the galaxy.
She had died before Voyager started, actually.
And they might have used her her voice as the computer. They used her the
computer,
in some in some places, they did use her in the computer voice. And in Deep Space Nine, she did make a couple appearances on DS9.
Right.
As a comedic love interest for Odo. But yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm having met Gene. Holy crap, man! So I've only been like a handful. I've seen in person a few. Like I've seen like George and George Takei or Takai.
George Takei, which rhymes with gay.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that helps.
That's from George Takei.
Okay.
That is not me making it up.
Yeah, he said that. Okay. And I've seen Walter, and I've seen back in Gen Con 95, I saw James Doohan. And he was pretty good back in the day. Like I said, I've seen these people, but I didn't get to meet them.
Well, he was a feisty old fart right up to the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was one of those guys that don't be all picky about like the Star Trek nerds and their fan, subtle continuity errors. He just don't be picky. Yeah.
Well, you see, that's what bothers me about prequels, because as we know in the original Star Trek, when Captain Pike went on trial, he was the original captain of the Enterprise.
Actually, wasn't Robert April though? Was the first Enterprise captain? Well, he was in fiction. He was the first. We never saw. I think maybe on
I didn't
TIA.
read any of the books, so all I can go is by what I know of the timeline. And from that one episode, I gathered Pike was the original. Of the
was.
Enterprise.
Yeah, he was part of the first pilot.
And the Enterprise was actually the first ship.
Right, of course.
Now you have Discovery, where Pike's captain. Discovery's an earlier version ship, and same thing with Enterprise, the prequel. The timeline's just I don't mind little things in continuity, but when they just don't line up at all, it makes it hard for me to really just get into. So I do have some problems with the prequels. I probably would watch Discovery, and I probably would watch Picard. But, the only thing I spend money extra on to have for entertainment is Spotify, because I can use that in the subway, with as tight as money is, and I have Hulu through Sprint. So, just going out and buying Netflix and buying, all these other services, CBS, All Access, like you guys have stated on the show before.
Yeah, it gets expensive.
It gets expensive, and at that point, you're probably going to end up paying more than cable by the time all's said and done.
Right.
And that's without your internet provider bill.
Well, that's the main thing. Everyone just wants data, so then they can stream all their shows and movies through their apps or their streaming services.
So you're paying $70 for your internet access. Depending on what tier you go, I don't know what Netflix costs, but I'm sure it could run up like $20, $30 at least.
Netflix, I think, starts at 10.
Starts at 10?
Yeah.
Okay, but still, there's 10 there, so that's 80.
I used my sister's Netflix account.
Actually, that wasn't frowned upon at one point. Then, you got to pay for CBS All Access and pay for this and pay for... Yeah.
Well, I know, and I'm in for a year of Disney Plus when that comes out.
Right. You said that.
Because the Star Wars and Marvel content is coming.
Right. Whereas I would probably watch the older Disney stuff. So as far as I watched the trailer for Picard today, and I don't know. I probably could get into it. It obviously starts on his farm in France.
Yep.
And what happened? It looks like he gets re-recruited by Starfleet after retirement, I guess.
Or he's saving this girl or something, or trying to protect this girl, or solve some groovy mystery. So he's got to get a gang together and go on a ship and have some funny adventures. So. Yep.
And one thing I noticed that, like in the trailer, and I heard this before, Brent Spiner's going to be back.
Yep.
What's her name? Counselor Troy.
Yep. Marina Sirtis.
Yeah.
And
I've never been a fan of, but that's okay. She'll be back, Jonathan Frakes, yeah. But I noticed for Data being an android, he aged a lot.
Yeah, but it's not Data. It's probably B4 from Star Trek Nemesis.
Okay.
Because, spoilers, Data dies at the end of Nemesis.
Oh, okay.
He kerplodes with the Riemann ship. So, before he died, he found another Soong-type android that he assembled that was extremely, like severely, outdated or had a very underdeveloped positronic brain.
So shades of lore.
Yeah, kinda, but not. Yeah, they made sure it wasn't like lore. We was gonna try and plot to kill everyone.
Yeah, right.
But that was the concept. That's what happened at the end. That was the last time we saw Picard, Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard at the end of Nemesis, which was almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
Over 20 years ago. Yeah, Nemesis was like 97, wasn't it? No. Nemesis was like 2002. So that was the last time we saw Picard. So yeah, we're looking at almost 20 years now. 20 years passed since Picard was in charge of the Enterprise E. Okay. So yeah, this will be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. That's coming in January. Obviously, we're going to talk about it when it begins. And we'll be, in DC Direct, I've got a buddy who's going to help me. We're going to get some episodes of Titans coming up soon. But yeah, New York Comic Con had some cool news and stuff. And I guess the HasLab Unicron got funded. So hooray. My Unicron will be here in a year and a half. And till then, my wallet will cry. The other news, I don't think I have much from New York Comic Con really. I think that's about it. That was all that really struck.
I've seen a lot of pictures. I've seen a lot of pictures coming out, from the local papers. But I haven't heard any real news from it. It seems like, it's almost like this year is New York Comic Con. Yay.
Yeah, and it's just the parades and the cosplay and the fans and the people and everyone having a good time, being good, the nerd flag flying loud and proud.
I mean, I'm sure there are some big names there, but they haven't put that out this year that much. Usually I see maybe Billy West is going to be there, maybe some people from Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever thing that I don't know are there, and they advertise it. And I haven't heard any of that this year. I didn't even know Comic-Con was running until, hey, Comic-Con's running, came up in the headlines.
Well, this is the smaller one because San Diego is the big one. That's the very, very big one. This New York Comic Con is not as big, but it's still quite important. But I didn't have my ear to the ground that much about this week, about New York Comic Con, as far as just news and such. I know Friday was Force Friday, which was the big release date of all the toys and merchandise for the new Star Wars coming up. That included the merchandise for the new Star Wars coming at the end of the year, Rise of Skywalker, and the Mandalorian series. That'll be on Disney Plus next year, I think, is when it starts. I don't know if it's gonna drop the same day or the same week as Disney Plus or not. But oh well. So New York Comic Con was a thing that happened, and it's here and gone, and no big deal. But so anyway, so Friday, I had a buddy of mine, because the hype for this movie was kind of crazy, and the news stories that I'm seeing headlines for, I'm like, wow, this is, and I knew it was going to be big, but I didn't think it was going to be $240 million for the weekend. I'm talking about Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Broke October box office records.
That's the highest October box office release ever. So, and I think the second highest release weekend for an R-rated film. Globally, that is, I think. So good on him. I think the first one still being Deadpool, I think, was the first highest grossing R-rated film to date. But I think the Joker's going to break that. But okay, I guess we could talk a little bit about this. I mean, obviously, you haven't seen it, but you can.
I did see a couple things though. The one thing that I saw was, and I haven't read any of them. Apparently, that the movie's getting mixed reviews.
Yes, highly mixed.
I hear mostly because of the violence in it.
It's disturbing. It is quite disturbing, actually. And there's I guess there's a story here on WGN. I guess 2 men were arrested. There's the other story here. I guess I'll read a little bit of this from Chicago's WGN 9 website, WGNTV.com. 2 men were arrested after smoking and causing a disturbance during a screening of the Joker movie on Sunday night. Moviegoers told police 2 men were smoking and causing a ruckus during the screening. And you know what? Joaquin Phoenix, he smoked a lot in this movie. And every time he had a cigarette, it was all the way to the butt. So, yeah, he was smoked a lot in this film. No one was injured. Officers arrested 2 men, 23-year-olds, charges pending. A similar incident happened in New York on Saturday night where some moviegoers left a Joker screening early when a man allegedly began laughing and applauding the film's murder scenes.
Yep, he was yelling and screaming through the whole thing, according to the story.
Yeah, this comes after security was heightened this weekend at theaters across the country because in 2012, a mass shooting at an Aurora, Colorado movie theaters on the opening night of The Dark Knight Rises, another Batman movie, because left 12 dead and dozens wounded, obviously, from that one shooting in 2012. So I'd kind of be like, yeah, that's what I saw, the hype for this movie is police on alert for nasty things happening at the Joker movie. It's like, well, no, not really. I mean, my crowd was kind of chill, and we didn't have, like, I had a couple people walk out, like, right before the credits rolled. Not at it was the very end of the film. I think they could tell they were pretty much done with it. They wanted to get out of there. Maybe it was just too disturbing for them. And there were some disturbing scenes.
I've heard of people walking out, like, in the middle, because it was kind of disturbing. By the way, anybody who's listening, there's probably going to be spoilers, so spoiler alert.
Yeah, I will be dropping a couple of minor spoilers, so maybe if you want to fast forward ahead about 10 minutes, and then that'll be about when we're done talking about Joker, at least. Joaquin Phoenix, I think, gave a very good performance, but this movie is not movie of the year material, but I've read a review, and this is kind of shares my sentiment. I mean, it was a 3-star movie with a 5-star performance in it. And I don't completely agree with that, because the mood of the film was really good. The lighting, the tone that the film set, because this does take place in Gotham City, and it isn't a period piece, where it was like the first thing you see is the old early 80s black and orange with the white dots, the old Warner Brothers logo that they used back in the early 80s. So like that was cool.
Jeff was also saying that, at least on his postings, that it's interesting that they used Chicago for Gotham City this time.
Yeah, they did. I guess they did film some of it. Although I think that was in the Batman, the Batwoman series. I think that's what he was talking about, because he hadn't seen Joker. He was talking about Batwoman, the DC series.
Okay, my bad.
Okay, yeah, because now Jeff hadn't seen it yet. I know he wasn't going to get around to it. He wasn't. He wasn't. Yeah, and I think he's binging. He's still watching the CW shows, and I really need to start getting. I need to get ready for this Crisis on Infinite Earths coming in December. But anyway, Joker is good. It's very good. I wouldn't say it's my favorite movie of the year, and there were some really. I'd say there were like 2 or 3 like epic moments in this film. Not just, and it wasn't like people getting murdered. But it was just great scenes, great character moments, and how we see this journey of this mentally disturbed man transform into this criminal, maybe not criminal genius, but he comes into his form. He transforms by the end of the film into what we know as the Joker, and how he gets grip on his lack of sanity, I guess is what you want to call it. And like I said, Joaquin, awesome performance. I don't know if De Niro will get a Best Supporting Oscar nod, because he wasn't really in it. I mean, he did a couple of scenes, and early on, like I said, spoilers, there are parts of this film that occur only in Joker's head. That's established early on in this film, that things you see on the screen are not necessarily what is happening in reality. And I thought, at first, I was like, oh man, at the end, that had me thinking after the movie was over, saying, wait, did that scene really happen? No. And I know that scene, oh no. Now thinking back after the scene, oh yeah, that didn't happen either. So that was awesome just to think about it. That makes you think. Not that I like movies that make me think, because thinking is hard. I think my movie good. No, I like I like this. I saw tons of trailers. Do I want to talk about trailer? I guess I'll talk about the trailers. There was one for this whodunit called Knives Out with Daniel Craig. That one looks actually kind of good. I'm not big on murder mysteries, but that one looks interesting. We also saw the trailer for Rise of Skywalker, and yep, give me that. Saw the trailer again for Terminator Dark Fate in November, and I hope that doesn't suck, because there's cool things about the Terminator franchise that have happened, but the last 3 Terminator films, just not really that good as overall films. There are great moments in it, and Terminator 2 Judgment Day is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I have like a battered wife syndrome. I have an abusive relationship with the Terminator franchise, because the first two Terminators were so awesome, and they never really able to reach that pinnacle after T2.
I only saw the first one when it came out.
Yeah, the first one was really good.
Yeah,
and the second one was super duper fantastic. You never saw T2?
No.
Wow. Yeah, T2 Judgment Day was, like I said, my favorite ever. But the first one still kind of holds up. Some of the effects are kind of like at the end, like they use like the stop motion for the endoskeleton, so he kind of looks like the old Sinbad movies where he's fighting a skeleton. You can tell it's stop motion like that, the way the thing moves, which is that's a little dates. But anyway, like I said, getting back,
the fun part about early movie making, the effects like that.
Yeah, before CG. Yeah, that's the best they had to work with. So anyway, Joker, not a lot of special effects. I'm glad it does take place in the DC universe where I didn't think they would touch so much upon Thomas Wayne as they did. And he ties into this film well enough that I really enjoyed it. And it makes sense of a couple of things that happen at the end, too. Things about the origin of Batman. It makes perfect sense to me now. This is the best way for it to happen, if you know what I mean. And if you don't, that's fine. This movie, I'd give it 4 out of 5 Yeah-Mans. I don't think I'd want to see it again, though. I'm not a horror guy, and this isn't really like the Tights and Flights comic book movie that you'd expect. There's no CG, they just let a real grounded story, and although it does take place in Gotham City, and there are a few things that little Easter eggs that the DC people will know, this is still the story of a man who becomes a sadistic criminal. And great things about the Joker, one of my favorite things about the Joker is that if you're a bystander and you're dealing with the Joker, he's probably going to kill you, but he might not. That's one of my favorite. It makes him one of the best villains in the comic book genre. Right up there with like Luthor and Green Goblin and all the rest. And not to say like even Doctor Doom, not so much as that. But like saying, Joker, yes, very good. I enjoyed it a lot. But the thing is that I don't know if I'll buy the DVD or if I'll actually want to see it again. It's disturbing. There's bad shit that happens in this film and stuff is like,
Let me ask you a question. Now, I'm not familiar with the comic books. Obviously, I know them from the original Batman and haven't followed them up too much. In the comic books, did he have the same progression where, like, in the original Batman, he was, like, just this campy, wannabe criminal?
I mean, like Cesar Romero?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's not the Cesar Romero.
To all the way up to what he is now, which seems like a lesson in the mental failure of the mental health system.
That is touched upon too and that goes both ways as far as the left and the right side of the aisle politically goes. I mean, this movie does have some political messages, and one of them is that we are not addressing the issue of mental health. The people on both sides of the aisle, they say we need to do something about mental health, but nobody ever does. And the fact that this takes place in the early 80s where the economy is not doing so good. Maybe this is, like I said, this is true. And kind of like the same kind of situation like how Gotham City is in the early 1980s. Same as how New York was in the early 80s. Like Times Square was a cesspool. You had,
the trains were disgusting and extremely dangerous. I didn't live here, but my wife did, so I hear stories of that. And of course, I love my trains, so I see, all the pictures of all the graffiti and the cops and everything else and the start of the Guardian Angels and, the whole deal. My question to you was, did the comic books follow the same type of thing with the Joker as the movies and film did?
Well, in the old comics, Joker just kind of arrived. It wasn't until years later where they've done a couple of origin stories for the Joker, but this is an original story.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, we don't know who the Joker is. That's part of the mystique of him. It's like, that's how they touched upon it in The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger's Joker. It's like, we have no idea on this guy. We don't know who he is. We don't know his real name. He just calls himself Joker. That's part of what makes him how as dangerous as he is. There's no way to know. Although but that was different with how Jack Nicholson's Joker was Jack Napier, and he was a former mob guy, and
right.
he fell into the chemicals, and he had to have his mouth stitched up so he had a smile. And
I just find it interesting how he went from this just goofy criminal. I'm not saying in his life timeline or in the movie timeline, but how the character itself went from a goofy criminal to an absolute psychopath.
Yeah,
I just find that interesting, and I wonder why.
Well, in the 80s, when especially when the DC comics were geared more towards had more adult-themed stories, where more serious stuff was happening. I mean, you still had people dying in the comics in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but it was still more for the kids, and Joker was just there as just a goofy event. And then the 66 Batman series didn't help in that regard, where the Joker was portrayed in a light-hearted sense. Pretty much everything all.
That's what I mean, and that's the Joker that I personally know, because I haven't followed up through the years.
And then in 89, we got the Keaton-Nicholson Joker, and then we got the Tim Burton take on it that was darker, and Joker became more sadistic, and obviously just killed people, and that's where the path was taken. And then this being the third time, well, with the exception of Jared Leto, and we don't talk about Jared Leto anymore. Even Harley Quinn doesn't want to talk about Joker anymore because of Jared Leto, I don't think. We had Nicholson, and then Ledger, and then Phoenix, and these three performances are different, and Phoenix's laugh is different than Ledger or Nicholson, where he had, like, when he was on, like, there's a scene in the trailer where he's trying to get a kid to smile, and then the mom is like, "You stop bothering my kid," and then he just starts laughing because he can't control himself. When he finds maybe it's the situation that finds socially awkward or whatever, where he just starts laughing.
They're actually, I think they had a thing on that on 48 Hours tonight. I obviously didn't watch it, but I saw an ad. Sometime they're having about that syndrome where you laugh uncontrollably and you can't help it.
Yeah, and he was like, and as part of the mental health system, how it's failing a lot of people because he's on a bunch of medications, but then he sees this person, this caseworker or whatever, paid for by the state or the county or whatever, and then she says eventually, "Yeah, we this will be the last time we see each other. They've cut our funding, so I'm sorry." And he's like, "Where am I going to get my meds?" Because that was what helped him stay, helped retain parts of his sanity and help him integrate somewhat into society. Without obviously being him off his meds, then things start, taking a turn for the worse, and one thing leads to another, and that there you have it. But man, yeah, I liked it a lot. I can't say I really loved it. I mean, I know like there was a passionate group of people afterward. They were meeting out in the aisle, out in the hallway afterward, and they were just jumping up and down, ranting and raving about it. They loved it. I was like, nah, I liked it. So I say 4 out of 5 EMANs for Joker. I wouldn't go out of my way to see it again, because once you've seen it once, it's one of those kind of movies where you see it once, I'm good. So, but I liked it. I got Spider-Man Far From Home on DVD. I haven't watched it yet. I wanted to see some of the special features, and it's a different take now. Seeing it through the lens of now the whole Sony Marvel breakup, and then they make up. So I honestly liked the first one better, the Spider-Man Homecoming. Actually, I like that film better than Far From Home, which is probably why I haven't watched it yet. But I did like this one. It's not my favorite MCU film, but I do like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. And I guess the thing is with Gyllenhaal, we've talked in previous episodes, I don't know which ones, obviously the ones that aired in July and early August, about my thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home. If you care to go back and listen, that'd be great. I'll tag which episodes maybe or I'll reference them for if you want my thoughts on Far From Home, because I did enjoy it, but like I said, I'm not my favorite. But that's about it for me.
Do you think with Spider-Man, now that this new deal's made between Marvel and Sony, a lot of people are talking this is like this next movie is going to be like a Spider-Man Endgame. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so let it end proper, and if we're not going to get Spider-Man anymore, or maybe they'll leave it open, because this Spider-Man movie was the highest-grossing Spider-Man movie, I think. I don't know if it did better than the 2002 Tobey Maguire one, but obviously way better than what Sony is doing with Andrew Garfield, which is why they had to shit can it, because they made a deal with Marvel, and then we got Tom Holland as the teenager. So if they do a third one and that's the last one, I guess that's okay, because I think they kind of put the lid on the Avengers, because I think the MCU is going to be focusing more on bringing the X-Men in future MCU films. I don't know if we're going to get like a new Avengers or a young Avengers maybe, or an A-Force or whatever we get down the line, because we know Marvel is playing the long game, and we've got movies planned out in 2021, 22, and so forth. So if this is the last Spider-Man coming up in 2021, I guess I'll accept it. I mean, whether I like it or not, it's fine, but it depends on how the third one ends.
Yeah. You don't really have a choice.
But at least we'll get some kind of closure, because they did kind of leave it at like an oh shit moment at the end of Far From Home. So, I'm glad we're getting another Spider-Man movie. After this last month, we've been like, oh no more Tom Holland. Because they kind of set it up for Peter Parker becoming kind of the next Iron Man, because he had a relationship with Happy, and being Tony Stark being kind of his mentor. So yeah.
The 2021 Spider-Man morphs into Iron Man.
Well, he already has the Iron Spider suit. That maybe we'll have someone else who's going to be Iron Man. Maybe a Riri Williams or some other, or maybe Morgan Stark, his daughter from Endgame, might someday become the next Iron Man. We'll see.
Okay. One thing that I forgot that did come out of Comic-Con was, I forgot her name. Her last name is Cohen. Sort of let out that Walking Dead is coming back.
Yeah, okay.
And 2 days later, Jeff posts an article, this thing from comicbook.com, The Walking Dead developing a musical episode.
Really?
Yeah. Let me open this up here. Sorry, any TV show that goes into doing musicals, even shows that I like, when they start singing, I'm like, oh, God, really? That belongs on stage. Sorry. Okay, The Walking Dead is developing a musical episode. Scott Gimple, Chief Content Officer for The Walking Dead universe, confirmed that a musical episode is in the works during the show's panel at New York Comic Con. Let's see. So, yeah, basically they're going to, like one of Jeff's friends said, jump the shark by doing a musical Walking Dead.
I don't know. They wanted to take themselves seriously, and I think they're just doing it for, for
ratings.
Yeah, exactly. No, sorry. I'm not buying it. No thanks.
I never watched The Walking Dead to begin with, but...
No, me neither. Like I said, I'm not that for the horror genre. And I know people who've watched it religiously, but then the people have fallen off because it's diverged too far from the original comics, and it's just gone on too long, and we're not seeing enough zombie killing maybe for their taste. But oh well, not my bag. But if people want a musical episode, hooray, you're getting one.
Yep. Anyway, what do you think about the whole move of Fox taking Orville off and putting it on Hulu?
Sure, great. Frees it up from the typical TV broadcasting restrictions. If it gives us a whole season in one shot, like usual, like binging, sure. But if not, so it opens it up for better show. Making it a better show, in my opinion, I think.
I haven't seen season 2 yet. I think I saw episode 1 of season 2. One thing I would love to see, and you would know whether they did it during season 2 or not, is to keep the good storylines that they're really developing in it, but put more of the humor back into it.
Yeah, there's still like a touch of humor. Everyone thought it was going to be Family Guy in space, but at season 2 there were some more serious things that occurred.
Which I don't mind that. I like a good storyline.
Oh yeah, I think Seth. He's pretty good at setting the tone where it's like a Star Trek pastiche, and there's still a touch of humor in just about every episode. Some more than others. So I'm okay with the level of comedy. Sure, I bring the Office comedy atmosphere back to it we had in season 1. The season 2 got a little more serious, but I do like the level of comedy. It's not too crazy. It's not like crazy pratfalls or, oh no, my hand's been cut off, stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's still funny. Like, I'm so spacey on character names because I haven't watched it in like 9.
I see you're spacey. I see.
But there was an episode where the navigator gets his leg cut off by Isaac.
Yeah. Oh, the helmsman. Yeah. What's his? Oh, geez. I know the redhead guy.
Yeah. Who is
Gordon?
Gordon, right?
Yeah.
Who is actually doing the second in command in real life?
Yeah.
They're an item. But anyway,
well, they divorced.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, he and Kelly divorced.
Oh.
I forget Adrienne, I think, but I'm messing up her name. But yeah, but she plays the ex-wife, the love interest, obviously, the first officer. Yeah, he and them were. I think they were married for almost a year, and then they divorced.
Oh, okay. On-set romance, in other words, that went way too far.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so that's too bad because she was.
Well, one of my favorite scenes is when his leg falls out of the ceiling. Keep the humor like that in spots. Mm-hmm. Don't, like you said, don't go overboard, but keep it in spots, and keep on with the storylines that have been going. Because I have been, at least up to what I watched, I have been enjoying the storylines.
The Orville is doing good. It's got a core following now, with myself included, and some family members that I've tried to convert.
And you turned me on to it.
Yeah,
I learned about that through here.
Yeah, it is a good show. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it captures the feeling of Star Trek. It's not Star Trek. It tries to be Star Trek, I think, a lot. But that's okay, because Next Gen, is not around, and Discovery is kind of there, but it's over to this side where it's more gritty, where this is a little more lighthearted, and it's still, I like these characters too. And that's a great thing about this show, is that Seth knows that it's about the characters. If you care about the characters, you can have anything in them.
Oh yeah, sure. So. On the Futurama, some of the Futurama groups I follow, they have a meme up, and it's like they're saying that Seth MacFarlane created the Orville, which is Star Trek only with hookers and.
That's right, yeah. They say I'm going to make my own Star Trek with blackjack and hookers because that was forget about the blackjack.
but yeah, so okay.
Yep. That was, I'm looking forward to seeing season 3 of The Orville. I think they had a panel there at New York Comic Con, and the guy who plays Gordon, the helmsman, was there, and he put out a blooper reel, but I don't think we got an official teaser trailer yet for season 3, but we know it's coming onto Hulu, which is good.
Now the question is, will they have a full TV season, or will they have a shortened season? I've heard that question asked.
I know. We'll find out. But we'll get season 3 in some form. So I'm good. I'm happy with that. And like I said, Jeff's been watching the CW shows, and I want to see the pilot to Batwoman. I forgot to DVR it because that's just interesting. And like I said, we'll get into I'll start watching season 2 of Titans on the DC Universe. And I know Jeff has had some trepidations about seeing it because, like I said, it's a reboot, and Teen Titans is near and dear to Jeff's heart, so he doesn't like seeing it like this. And like I said, one thing I would mention last week when I took my trip to Pennsylvania, My cousin has some grandkids, and to occupy their time, they were watching some TV on in the background. The adults were talking at the kitchen table, and the kids are on the other side of the room. They're watching Teen Titans Go. And from what I watched at Teen Titans Go, I can't stand it. I mean, I just it is so kiddie. It's so low-hanging fruit. It's like, I can see why people can be all like, man, bring back Teen Titans. And they kind of did in that crossover they did where Teen Titans meets Teen Titans Go, like what they could do with the multiverse now. But man, from what I watched at Teen Titans Go, not that I got, Anyway, it's just too kiddie, so. That's good. I'm glad the kids are enjoying it, and hopefully that'll help them to discover other shows later on. So I'm all for that, because the younger generation, if you care about something and you want it to continue, you got to get the young people interested. Otherwise, you're going to wind up like the Airwolf fandom. With Jan Michael Vincent, yeah. Now, actually, I liked Blue Thunder better than Airwolf. That was just me, though. Airwolf was too much of a plane, where Blue Thunder was more like a badass helicopter. But that's me. Airwolf versus Blue Thunder. Who would win?
Airwolf. I did see Top Gun, but didn't see Airwolf, and the only reason
another thing we got coming is that Top Gun sequel with Tom Cruise. That might just save his career. Actually, I might be interested in seeing it, but the trailer makes it look like, I've seen a lot of this before. But we said the same thing about The Force Awakens. But
it's a repeat of Take My Breath Away.
Yeah. Don't bring back Kelly McGillis.
Yeah.
You haven't seen her lately?
No.
Anyway, let's see. There's one thing, news, not much of we don't have, that's news. We talked about the wrestling news last week. But there's one thing that Jeff shared in the chat this week about...
Oh, by the way, wrestling?
Yeah.
Too bad I couldn't make comments during what shows I'm not on. Wrestling, my first match was at Chicago Stadium. I was 13 years old. It was Andre the Giant against Haystacks Calhoun as the main event.
Haystacks Calhoun?
Yes.
Never heard of that dude.
You never heard of Haystacks?
Nope. I know Hillbilly Jim from the dawn of WWF.
No, Haystacks was in there.
Okay.
He was real big at that time. I was, 13 at the time, so that would have been about 76. And
that was before I was in it. Yeah.
That would be right at the end of Haystack's career. But he was like one of the huge draws, and he had the two biggest people in the WWF at that time going head to head. That was a big thing. Literally as well as figuratively. And, I was there. Also the first time I ever got drunk.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't into wrestling before. That's when the WWF packaged it and made it nationwide with Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik and Hillbilly Jim, Dusty Rhodes, Junkyard Dog.
Right, that's about the time I actually started losing interest in wrestling.
That's when I gained interest, because you had all those smaller wrestling federations that were all super regional. It wasn't until McMahon came in and put it all together and made it one big, WWF.
Well, I remember in the early 70s, when I was 73, I would have been 10, so 71, 72, 73, 74... through 76, it was already, primetime TV on one of the networks. And we used to get together at each other's houses to watch wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nationwide by that point. By the time you got into it, a whole nother era of wrestling had started.
Yeah, where they had packaged it and put it on everything. Toys, cereal, cartoons.
Yeah, we did not have the merch.
Yeah. TV shows and on the USA. I remember watching wrestling on the USA Network with Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then with WrestleManias, there are times like my friends and I would chip in and we'd get pay-per-view WrestleMania at someone's house
Oh, I had to see it because of the 20-person cage match.
Yeah, the Royal Rumble.
Rumble, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep. That's right, brother. The training to saying the prayers, the eating the vitamins, man.
Now it's, can you smell what The Rock is cooking? Who cares? It smells awful. Boiling sauerkraut.
Yeah.
I guess he came back.
Yeah, Jeff talked about that briefly, but like I said, I've not been following the wrestling scene. He does, so that's more his speed. We have to get Jeff next back. He'll listen back saying, "Oh, you've been wrestling," you're shouting at the mobile device saying, "Yeah, you don't know nothing about wrestling." No, I don't.
And I don't remember a lot of the earlier years. I do remember that one match, and I probably, like I said, in that era, watched every week and don't remember any of it. So, except for Chicago Stadium, saw that and that there, and I had my very first big name concert there, and that was Boston off their first album. That was my first concert.
Is that Wayward Son?
No, that's
Boston?
Kansas.
That's Kansas. Okay, wrong state, wrong city.
Yeah, no, more than a feeling. Long play. I'm spacing on my Boston songs now. Foreplay, Long Time. They had a whole bunch of them off their first album.
Okay.
So I saw that. That was the next thing I saw at Chicago Stadium. Then the Blackhawks, and then never been to Chicago Stadium since. And don't think I'll get there.
Well, never say never.
It's gone.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, yes, you can say never.
So, but yeah, that's wrestling. Yeah. And now I notice they have more like the MMA and what did I see? I saw a headline today. Mike Tyson is going to be hosting one of the smaller MMA type, the PPF or something like that. He's going to be a host of that. So Jeff, keep your eye out for that if you want.
Please put him on the microphone. We're going to hear Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Go ahead. Give him a call. See what he has to say about it.
We'll see what Mike Tyson has to say.
This following match is scheduled for. It's gonna happen. Okay, shit's gonna go down. Okay, no weed.
Yeah, right. I'd like to hear him host a show after all that weed.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll get Mike Tyson. We'll get him back in the forefront.
They show him at the announcer's table. He's surrounded by bud all over the place, wearing a bug wreath.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I guess you want to talk about this conspiracy thing? You guys posted. Jeff saw this.
Yeah, Jeff saw this.
He posted this in the chat about 35 of the most popular conspiracy theories in the U.S. It's like, I know you're not a conspiracy guy, and I'm kind of not a conspiracy guy. But I mean, there are forces out there. Like, we know that the government's done some bad things, but all these crazy things about we just had the Area 51 thing that didn't happen, the non-event that the media was drumming up about. Everyone wanted to storm Area 51, and the meme started. That was how it started. Not the media. It was the meme on the internet about thousands of people being interested in going to Area 51, and like 100 people showed up, and I think 2 people got arrested, and that's it. So nobody really does these things, but
right.
But conspiracy stuff, not really my.
Well, like for example, Area 51. Since you brought it up, do I think they have aliens there? No. Am I stupid enough to think that there's life outside of Earth, or that there is not life outside of Earth? No. Humanoid form? Doubtfully. But, I believe there are microbes and things.
You think we're alone?
As far as a human-type race, probably.
I think they're smart enough to leave us
imagine.
alone. It's not like they live where like they're controlling what we're doing and influencing our way of life. But I think they're just smart enough to know we're too primitive. We're killing each other over shoes. So
either that, or if there is, I'll play an open mind about it. If there is, they're in the same boat that we kind of are. They're like in a sweet spot to their sun or something, right? And they're so
Has to be
far
an
away
habitable
from
zone,
our
right.
right. They're so far. Well, what's inhabitable for one set of organisms is not inhabitable.
Right. You
for
think
us.
it might be life that's just too far detached from carbon-based biological life that we know it.
Yes, and let's play for the just sake of doing it that there are carbon form life forms, right?
Yeah.
They're in a totally different galaxy, and who's to say that they're ahead of us or behind us as far as technology? We might be out of range for them, just like they're out of range for us.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility too.
True. I couldn't agree more. But like I said, who's to know? Anything is possible. But I think it's weird. It's a conceit that we're alone in this vast universe. But it's out there, whether they visited us or not, or what. I don't know, because you had UFO sightings everywhere, and almost since even before modern history, there have been unexplainable events. Some people think the aliens influenced the pyramids and the Egyptians and all that. Not the Stargate kind of, maybe on some level, maybe, that they advanced. We went from apes to building pyramids, and not much in between that was known. But I don't know. Who's to say?
Yeah, I personally, like I said, I think it's more microorganism type stuff out there. But, you know, it's like death. You can't say what it is till you've been through it, and once you've been through it, you're not going to say it. So,
right.
You know, I'm leaving the possibility wide open that there very well could be, but show me the alien.
Right. Well, the alien autopsy that they remember back in the 90s where I think they shed the show on Fox, Alien Autopsy or something like that. That was when the X-Files were big.
Oh, I loved the X-Files. That was a great show.
But other conspiracies, you know, like JFK and Martin Luther King and...
See, now with JFK, I don't believe... I've said this off the podcast, and I'll say it on, that I think most conspiracy theorists are idiots. Okay? But with JFK, they might have something. You look at the gun, you look at the technology at the time, right? The physics just says they could be right on that one. You know, you can't shoot a simple shotgun from that distance and blow off a piece of a person's head.
Yeah. And then you watch JFK with Kevin Costner, and the bullet goes back and to the left, back and to the left. Now, then it does raise some. Who was that? Oh, who was the filmmaker that did? Was it? I don't know the name of the dude off the top of my head. He did Born on the 4th of July. He was the kind of a conspiracy guy. Obviously, he directed JFK.
Somebody's going to have to leave it in the comments. Let's see.
I'll have to find it. Now I got to find it. See, I can't have a show
without a search.
JFK movie. Oliver Stone. That's it. It was a Stone. Okay. That was the guy who was all like, there's some, he raised some questions about what happened with JFK. Then the similarities between, the correlations, I think more accurately, between the assassination of Kennedy and Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Not just they both have 7 letters in their last name, but stuff like that.
When I was 12, the town, Geneva is where I grew up. Geneva had a trip down to Washington, D.C., and part of that trip was touring Ford's theater. So I got to look through the hole that he was shot through.
That's morbid.
It is. It is, because they let you come up right to the door, and you can look through the hole.
No, Jesus.
At least back then. That was in 76. They might have changed it.
Yeah, they might have changed it off. It's like Ivan was talking about last week when they had, like, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has, like, John Lennon's glasses
exactly.
Like he was wearing when he was shot. I was like, that's freaking morbid, man.
And then the tour, they let you go up on the stage and look and see how the distance from the stage to the balcony and get a feel for what Oswald jumped. And then they took you over across the street and showed you the room and a mock-up of the bed. Obviously, they're not going to have the original one. And a mock-up of the bed where Lincoln died.
Right. Because, well, he was pronounced dead. I mean, if he was shot
pronounced dead. He was
in the
shot
back
in
of the head, then, yeah, he was pretty much done right then and there. But
And that was only about 4 foot of a throw from that hole to his head. You know. But so that one, that one I could see more of what they're saying happened. So tell me, what are the similarities between Kennedy and Lincoln?
Both their assassins had they were both referred to in 3 names.
Oh, okay. Yeah, John Wilkes Booth and
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah. Did I say Oswald for Lincoln? Ugh.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Same.
Don't go by what I say, go by what I mean, yes. But yeah, that was a weird part of the tour. Because like you brought up with Ivan and the glasses and all this stuff.
Yeah, the list of strange coincidences between Lincoln and Kennedy. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Kennedy was elected president in 1960. Both wives lost a child while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy, and Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both were assassinated by Southerners. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, was born in 1808. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908. Like John Wilkes Booth was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald was born in 1939. Like, both names are composed of 15 letters. Lincoln was shot in a theater named Ford. Kennedy was shot in a Lincoln car made by Ford. So, yeah, crazy, man. But that's just
wow.
Yeah, that makes you think, actually. But wow, it's like weird.
See, the Kennedy one is about the only one that I could say, okay, maybe they have something there. You want to talk about the series? One that's kind of close to me is the World Trade Center. To all those who think that the government brought down the World Trade Center, you know what? Go F yourselves. I saw it without cameras.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the plane hit. I saw the buildings come down. The only difference is I was not in Manhattan. I was on the Brooklyn-Queens border, but I had a full view of the Twin Towers. I saw it. I smelled it. I heard it.
Wow.
So if you think the government painted the walls with thermite and blew the building out, go F yourselves.
Yeah.
Plain, simple, easy.
Yeah. Well, all that crazy stuff people were talking about in the months following about how, like, because jet fuel can't melt steel or something like that. But
well, I'll tell you how bright how hot this fire was. I was working at a factory at the time, and I was standing at the loading dock talking to one of the shipping guys. World Trade Center is about 3.5 miles away. That fire was so bright, I could see into an office, and I could see the outlines of a desk and the file cabinets in the flames.
That's crazy, man.
You take that much heat and the way the building was constructed? No.
Yeah, so conspiracies, yeah, but maybe I think people thrive on that, man. Like, I heard all these crazy conspiracies from the people on the right when Obama was elected, and Obama's coming for our guns and all that. And then we've had, now that Trump's been in office, all this, which turned out to be nothing about this collusion with Russia. They've just said excuse to get him, maybe, but other crazy, like, I don't know, people like the conspiracies. I think people thrive on it, some people. Not just for ratings or for money or whatever. Just I think people like the allure of just some grand elaborate scheme. Sometimes there ain't no scheme. Sometimes it just shit happens.
Exactly. I mean, I could see wanting to go to the point, taking the subject, like Kennedy or whatever, and saying, look, I'm really interested in finding out what really happened with this. I don't believe totally the government story. Let me study it and go in with an open mind. Then you have your nut jobs. Oh, blah, 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 blah. World Trade Center was painted with thermite. Those ones are like the flat earthers.
Yeah, the flat earth people. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
You think you're isolated from, like, pop culture. These people are isolated, like, from... Yeah, they think that NASA's geared it all up, and all the people who think that we're never went to the moon, those people can go fuck themselves.
Well, I remember sitting in the living room. We were, at that time TVs were expensive, but my grandparents had enough money to have a decent TV. And I remember watching the coverage of the moon launches.
Yeah, those are great times. Yeah. I had the same similar situation in the early 80s growing up as a young boy in the early 80s watching all the space shuttle launches.
Mm-hmm.
Just a great pride in our space program.
Well, Challenger actually, one thing about me is I'm a full-blown alcoholic. That's how Ivan knew me. I drank beer like water, then I would start on the shots and still be okay. On the morning that Challenger went up, I was sitting in the bar having about my fifth beer, and Challenger took off at about 10 o'clock. I'm on my about fifth beer. That thing went up. It blew up. I went right to the phone, called a sergeant friend of mine that worked in the CPD, who set me up with a rehab. So that,
wow.
Yeah. And by the way, yes, I am sober today. I drink occasionally, but only on special occasions. So.
Okay. Yeah, I have a cousin who was, he's had some issues with drinking, but he drinks. He has a little wine. He'll have a glass of wine every great once in a while, but he doesn't. He doesn't drink like casually anymore.
Yeah, I think last time I drank was at a wedding about a year and a half ago, and I put down about 8 rum and cokes.
Okay.
So,
well, you got to keep. It's all about moderation, And I've endeavored to improve my health as well. I mean, I'm not large, but I could stand to lose a little bit of weight in my belly. And I'm worried about the diabetes.
Yeah.
As a kid, I would drink like 5-6 cans of Pepsi a day. And this was the kid of my 20s. And took me 2 rounds of kidney stones back in 2001 and 2016 to help me realize that, I need to take a little better care of myself so I can hang out on this little blue ball for a while longer.
I still drink about 2-liter Coke a day. I still smoke about a pack a day, even after a heart attack. So, hey, like when people give me a lecture about smoking, I tell them, look, the Surgeon General has determined life causes death. Enjoy it.
That's right.
And
there's part of that too, where it's my body and I'll eat and drink what I want. But at the same time, you still got to pace yourself. It's all about moderation too.
Yeah, and I gave up drinking, so I'm proud of that.
Yeah, well, that's good.
But the whole space things, see, part of it is, and I wish China would find it, anybody who sent any kind of probes or anything to the moon has not found any of the equipment from the original lunar landings. And that's where a lot of the conspiracy theory come with. But, like, for example, China's studying the other side of the moon.
Yeah, they're on the far side.
Right. India, they crashed their primary probe, so they're just doing satellite probes. So, who knows? Maybe they'll pick up in the Sea of Tranquility or something, see some of the equipment, if it isn't buried by dust.
We've not been back to the site of the Apollo 11 landing. I think people just want to leave it alone. Just like it's a historical site, and that's going to be where, like, when in hopefully in 300 years, when people are living on the moon with full-blown cities and all that, they'll keep that site, they'll leave it alone as it's a stepping stone to our exploration of space. Because we stay here, we know we're screwed. We got to be sure that we can get our asses out there and preserve our race.
But instead of looking at the moon, they're looking at Mars.
Yeah, I think Mars is a pipe dream at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have a generation of people born and die before they even get there. Let alone the troubles of establishing a camp in any zero gravity atmosphere or relatively zero gravity atmosphere.
Well, a trip to Mars, I think, is 7 months. I think they said, like 5 or 7 months to get to Mars. That's how long it takes for our probes to get there.
Oh, okay.
So it's not that fast, but I mean, there's still 3 days to get to the moon. I think building a base on the moon should be our priority as far as space exploration. It makes sense. It's a stepping stone. Baby steps.
But part of me is saying, why? To screw up these planets like we screwed up here? That's part of me. And the other part of me says, boy, I would love to be able to be a passenger to go to the moon one day, or Mars, or like you can in most of your sci-fi type of
right. It's like in 2001
scenario.
You take the Pan Am flight to the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Sign me up.
But why screw up other planets?
Well, the point is not to screw it up and just live peacefully as a race, not just one country or one race or one creed or just one sect of the human population. And that was part of that movie, Matt Damon, that Elysium, where only the 1%ers lived on the space station, and they lived, with no disease, and they had preserved life, and they were living awesome, and then everybody on Earth was living in the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about, I think that.
But shouldn't we be doing that now?
Yeah, you're right.
Should.
We got a lot of growing up to do as a race, and that's why I'm convinced that if there is intelligent life out there, they know better to leave us alone.
You're darn right.
Yeah.
By the way, it was just announced that the spaceships, the Men in Black spaceships, are as of this month starting to be rebuilt, so people can go tour the ships again.
Men in Black?
Yeah, remember Men in Black at the end of the scene that they went to the New York State Pavilion at the World Fair site.
Okay.
And he crawled up and he took off in one of the observation towers.
Okay.
Well, the real ones are being rebuilt as of this month.
Okay. Ivan and I went and saw that movie. We saw that together. First one, Men in Black.
Right.
I didn't see the third one.
I didn't either. I did see the third one.
That had Josh Brolin as a younger version of Tommy Lee Jones's character, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. I can't look it up because my hard drive with all my movies died, and I gotta recover it somehow. Uh-oh. Yeah, you have a backup hard drive. Just have the backup hard drive die. Very good, but yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. It's been a while. Like I said, I'm into the older movies anyway. But.
Oh yeah, well that's cool, man. So I don't know. We have another news.
Let's see.
Anything happening going on this week? Not that it's like I said, didn't get much out of New York Comic Con.
No, I didn't get much here in New York either.
And you were there.
Well, in the city at least.
Yeah.
Let's see. iTunes is saying bye-bye. Mac's saying bye-bye to iTunes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's I've never had an Apple phone. I prefer the I prefer the Galaxy series.
I've had an Apple device since 2011, so I'm in. Well, it was 2010 actually. I got it. First one was a 3GS. Was my iPhone 3GS was my first Apple device. I might have it in some drawer somewhere in the house somewhere. But maybe if I was smart, I may could sell them like for like $100 or something when I upgrade. But I never done that. They just accumulate here.
Yeah, same with me. I have my original cell phone, which, believe it or not, this dates me, is a Motorola bag phone.
Oh yeah, I had one of those. Yeah, back in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first cell phone. Was a
Be walking
purse.
down the street talking on a handheld receiver. People look at you like you're nuts.
And then, like in the late 80s, early 90s, when you had the phone installed into your car, man, you were like freaking lifestyles of the rich and famous, man. You had a phone in your car.
Well, I did that with the bag phone. I bought an accessory antenna through the glass antenna, which went onto the window, and then I ran the coax to the phone and plugged it in where the antenna went, and used it like that. It sat on my center console.
Now, you had the receiver up to your ear,
Yeah.
or did you talk through the stereo?
No, yeah. At that point, mine you couldn't go through the stereo. You had to go through the handset.
Right.
Itself.
You had the handset and the
You did.
cradle like between the seats in the front.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. So so here I am at that point. I was driving Plymouth Grand Voyager minivan. Ugh, I like full size vans, but the minivan did its job, and it wasn't that bad. With this darn phone in the center, and I'm talking on the phone, driving down the road. People are almost crashing, looking at me. You know, it's like the first phone that I had that where I could get a earbud and mic for. I would hook that up, and they wouldn't see the lavalier mic sitting on the shirt, and I'd just be talking to myself. And,
Right. Yeah, I remember like when Bluetooth receivers started coming up, and you walk past someone and you didn't see it. Like it was in their right ear, but their left side was facing you. So they're walking past you. They're talking to themselves. You don't see the Bluetooth in their ear.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, whoa! But then they turn the corner. I was like, oh, okay, it's that guy was on his phone.
I actually freaked out a friend one time. I was about 9 years old at the time, and I was into CB radio and things, and that's back when you had call signs for CB and you did things right. You know, it's not the shit show that it is today.
Right.
And so what I did was I took the mobile out of the car and I hooked up. I had like two big steel baskets over the back tire. You know, one hanging saddlebag baskets either side. So I put a car battery in one. I stuck the antenna to some tin foil up on the top rail of it, and then I took a couple of straps and I mounted the phone to the CB to my handlebars. Now, it was an old Johnson Messenger CB, and it had the similar like headphone style mic earpiece.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm riding down the road talking on the CB, and I went underneath my friend's window one day and said, I was talking to her, and I said, hey, look out your window. And she's like, because she sits right next to the window. So early technology was fun to do shit like that with.
Yeah. I think my dad had a CB in his 78 Monte Carlo back in the day. That was like made popular, like, shows like Smokey and the Bandit and BJ and the Bear run. So that was everyone's in the CB trend, I think, back in that day.
Yeah,
like, keep on trucking and all that.
I started in 71 before all that actually hit.
Right.
My call letters were KYN7849.
Huh.
And you did have to identify every 5 or every 10 minutes, much like you do with ham radio.
Oh, you were ham radio?
No, this was CB at the time.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And it was a lot quieter. You had your truckers going through, and of course I lived in a small city, so you had your truckers going through, and you had your locals. But everybody was, even if you didn't like each other, was for the most part respectful. And if they weren't respectful, you found them and you pinned their coax.
What does that mean? Pin their coax.
Okay, the coax is a cable that runs between the radio and the antenna.
Yeah.
And it's 3 sections: a center conductor, then an insulator, and outer braid.
Yeah, I know what a coax is, but I mean, what do you mean by pin the coax?
People, you take a nail or a pin and you drive it through the coax, shorten out all the layers. they keyed up the microphone for more than a few seconds, and you got smoke coming out the back of the radio.
Wow. Well, that's if you were able to get into their CB and sabotage it like that.
You didn't have to. The coax runs outside to the antenna.
Oh, okay.
So as long as their coax didn't run from the second floor to the roof, if it ran from like first floor or the basement to the roof, you got them. And that's how you kept the airways clean back in that time. And that's before you had all the linear amplifiers and the audio, and I'm going to step on you, you can't, all that BS, which sadly is coming to ham radio too, by the way. So.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who was into ham radio back in the day, back in the early 90s. I think he was like registered, like, I forget, by the National Weather Service or whatever. For being like an emergency responder or something like that?
As a Skywarn spotter.
Right, that was it. That's what he was, yeah.
Yeah, I was too. I haven't had my radio on in 10 years. Probably when we move out to the country, I'll fire it back up again. But yeah, what the Skywarn spotter program is, they train you to look at the weather and the clouds to look for different things. So you, like, for example, you see a wall cloud, you know what it is and recognize it, and you report it back to National Weather Service. And through all the different amateurs that are part of that, they keep track of this weather. Okay? It doesn't have to be a tornado or a wall cloud. It could just be like real heavy snow. It could be rain. They put out notice when we should be watching. And we report it back to the National Weather Service, and it helps them, decide whether to put out watches or warnings or anything else like that. So that's what the Skywarn Spotter program is, and you have to go to a class once a year.
Yep. I remember him having to do that.
Mm-hmm. And it's about a 2-hour class, and you sit there and you watch. They tell you what to look for. They show you on slides what to look for and everything. Then you stand around and with other people and eat donuts and drink coffee.
Yeah. I remember having to go out. He was out when he would go almost like in the area when he heard that there was like a storm coming. Mm-hmm. He'd be like glued to that window, or either he had to re-jump in his car if he thought there was a chance of him maybe seeing a funnel cloud.
Oh yeah. So. I mean, and there are actually thousands of hams that do this, and you don't have to be a ham. You can, you can go to the class, become a spotter, and report via telephone. So you don't have to be a ham to do that, And also, ham radio has like Aries and Races, which are the people that are trained in the emergency responders. And they're also affiliated with the Red Cross. Like when the World Trade Center collapsed, New York City Office of Emergency Management was in the basement of the Trade Center. And also, the Trade Center had a lot of the city communications. So what these Aries and Races groups do is they train with the official New York City entities like police, fire, so on as EMS, so on and so forth. And when the trade centers went down, they got the call. So they ran down to provide communications for the city to different ham repeaters, since the city had no communications.
Right. Landlines were destroyed. Right.
Landlines outside of Manhattan worked.
Right.
So the two repeaters that handled emergencies was the WABC repeater in Manhattan, and the repeater I was a member of, which was a VHF repeater in Queens. And so, I helped handle some of the traffic going through, making phone calls to local precincts and things like that, amongst, along with a number of other people who did that. But, that sort of thing it gets practiced often. And it's a good thing because we needed it, and, we were there.
Yeah, and now in the wake of that terrorist attack, we've had to put in these contingencies in case this type of communication infrastructure breaks down again, where we'll have like wireless communications set up.
But here's the problem with wireless communication. Okay, and this is a misconception. And there's a whole discussion about this in the ham radio universe and the emergency responder universe, that wireless communication for the most part now is considered cell phone or mobile data.
Or satellite.
Or satellite.
Right. Anything that runs off a satellite is vulnerable. Because you've got
EMPs and everything
exactly.
else.
Yeah.
But everything else, like your cell phones and your internet connections and all that, along with your landline-based telephones, guess what? They all went down. And they're all going to go down again if something like this happens. And who's going to be there? The guys who are sitting there running with portables, the guys who practice what's called field day, where twice a year they go out into fields and they set up whole stations. And it's a contest, obviously, to see how far you can reach and things and make contact.
Who has the greatest range? It's
but
like
it's
a
also,
dick measuring contest with some of these people, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it's also practiced to what if? What if there is no power, no internet, no cell phones, no real structures to put equipment up on?
Not even a Google chat room.
Exactly. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Yeah.
Hey, Rocky.
But yeah, that's what that's practiced for exactly situations like that.
In case there's a solar flare or something knocks out all computers and internet and all that.
A solar flare will also knock out any kind of radio too. So
right.
on that one you're up to creek.
Unless, don't you have I've watched some of this prepper stuff where if you could put the equipment inside some kind of shielding,
then how are you going to get the signal out? The shielding.
Once the pulse is done, you could take it out and then it'll still function if it was shielded from the pulse.
Yes, that will work.
Yeah,
that will work. But I wasn't even talking. You had said solar flare. Solar flare sends obviously different radiations, including gammas, towards the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what creates the northern lights.
Right.
Plasma and all that from that. But if it's strong enough, and we haven't had a solar flare do it yet in my memory, but if it's strong enough, it could actually knock out AM broadcast, FM broadcast, all hobby broadcast, just from the radio interference. You'd hear nothing but static. And that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
If you're talking about an EMP pulse, yeah, anything exposed is going to get fried.
Right. It's like when there's if there's a nuke, an atomic blast.
Yeah.
The EM pulse from the atomic blast will knock out your car, your phone, your Apple Watch, your Nintendo Switch, and pretty much anything that you plug in or have a battery on.
But
your watch.
Hop in your 57 Chevy and start that bitch up. It'll take you. No computers, just wires, a battery, and go.
That's right. That's right, man. We have to go low tech. I think a lot of more people are trying to go low tech now. Not with just celebrities going with flip phones because they can't be hacked, but just more and more people just trying to get away from the phone addiction. I'm guilty as charged. I mean, before the show, after work, I just vegged on my bed reading my phone for 2 hours. Even I put on YouTube and get caught on my email and whatnot. Man, I spend a lot of time on my phone, and it wouldn't hurt to just put it down and even for a day.
The trouble is, a lot of people do. You see it all the time. People with their face in their phones walking down the street.
Yeah, and the young people especially. Yeah,
driving. It's gotten to the point now where you can have two people out on a date and they're sitting across the table from each other, texting each other.
Right.
And that happens, and it's sad.
Yeah, it is. First dates, you don't look at your phone. That's a rule. But then, as we obviously at the end of the day, we say, okay, well, here's my number. Then you get out your phone. But you're right. It's just the young people too, and then the older people are getting into that as well. And with just how we are as a society right now.
Well, we brought our kids up. I have two boys. We brought our kids up where when we sat down for dinner or anything, the phones go away. Period. And we had formal sit-down dinners for a while. Then it became more informal as they got older. But we still didn't allow them during dinner time to have their phones. Right now that they're older, my oldest son is turning 28, I think. Yeah, once the years go by, you get a little bit confused. He was born in 91. Now you can't get him off his phone, despite the way we raised him like that. He's eating dinner, he's on the phone. We go out to a restaurant, he's on the phone. It's like, and his girlfriend too. And same thing with my younger son, who's just turned 26. Same darn thing. The only time I pick up my phone during a meal is when if I check in on Facebook. I'll do a quick check-in, put my phone away, and that's the last you see of it unless it rings.
Just tell them you're going to put the phone down or you're going to pin their coax.
That won't work. I'll rig up an EMP generator and blow their phone out.
There you go.
No, then we have to pay for it.
Oh.
Oh, well, think of something. But yeah, it's
yeah, it is. It's unsettling.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
People don't, in my day you went to bars and hope you didn't pick up a sleaze. Nowadays you go on whatever dating site and hope you don't pick up a sleaze. Yeah. It's, technology is not great.
Where it's being misused, I think, obviously.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, at least and society has allowed it. And we make your case however you want about the benefits or detriments or whatever, but you look around, man, and we're stagnating. I mean, we've got supercomputers in our phones, and what are we doing? We're looking at cat videos, and we're sharing them on social media.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, aren't we supposed to, love one another and hopefully just, explore the stars together and use our technology to better our race? Nope, we're looking at cat videos. And if you don't like my videos, I'm going to I'm
going to unfriend you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll just send you spam or some virus or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess not that we hate mobile devices. We're just like, well, it's a different time, and we're from different times. But speaking of time, I think that'll about do it this week. We've got lots.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. And we, of course, shout out to Ivan. We'll get.
Feel better, man. Hope to hear from you soon.
You get your ass back here next week, you big jerk. And Jeff, good luck with your public speaking thing this week. We'll find out more. Obviously, you'll read about his stuff on the Squares of the Round Table Facebook page. That's where you'll find us. Of course, where we got our crazy stories from News of the Squared. We'll have that up later this week. We're on Instagram and Twitter at SOTRT Podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on Anchor. We're on Podbean. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google Play. Also, we're on YouTube. You can click the bell, subscribe. You'll know when new content arrives. And our sister show, News is Squared, we'll have that later in the week. And you can email us at sotrtpodcast@gmail.com. So I guess that'll do it for episode 71 of Squares of the Round Table. We've been the squariest of them all here, me and Scott hanging out. So we'll catch you next time, and we'll have our normal crew back, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.